So Pelosi's position on individual stock ownership is, I think, starting to seem a little bit crazier, because you have people who are coming out and making the case for why it makes sense to stop it. One individual who's been doing this for a couple of years now is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who tweeted, "It is absolutely ludicrous that members of Congress can hold and trade individual stock while in office. The access and influence we have should be exercised for the public interest, not our profit. It shouldn't be legal for us to trade individual stock with the info we have." I agree. I don't think that they or their immediate family should be able to. And if that's just too much to ask, okay, then don't run for office. Honestly, I don't think it's too much to ask that you should either choose to serve or serve your own personal financial interests. I think that it's very reasonable to expect people to do that. Now, Pelosi's office thinks, no, we don't need these changes because we already have something. So now let's turn to talking about what they do have. Drew Hamill, spokesperson for Pelosi, said that the speaker wants a transparency-focused approach rather than bans, saying the Stock Act exists to shine a bright light on trades by members of Congress. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. They're just stealing lines from Donald Trump now. But anyway, so Jason, we don't need to ban them from owning stock, because with the Stock Act, which was put in place because of obvious corruption among our elected officials, we get to know what they're selling, so there couldn't be any corruption. Oh, here's the issue. Dave Leventhal has been on our program, I believe 752 times, to talk about how the Stock Act effectively does nothing. They violate it blatantly, and there's basically no penalties. And they have some recent reporting on it that's been great, showing that many in Congress and top Capitol staff have violated the Stock Act literally hundreds of times already. They found 49 members of Congress and nearly 200 of the highest paid Capitol Hill staffers had violated it in just the last year and a half. Yeah. And when they do, well, then there's gonna be some sort of strike back, right? Some sort of consequences. Yeah, the first time they do, they might have to pay a late fee of $200. And it could potentially go up from there. But we don't even know if they're paying these minimal fines. There's no public records whatsoever that Insider was able to find. And they don't have to answer for this. So that's the best disinfectant supposedly, but does it even exist? The bottle might be empty for all we know.
Right, no, John, it's like we have, what's that saying about potential? Potential is nothing without action. Well, you have this really cool act that potentially could do what it's supposed to do, what it's been created to do, and that is to hold people accountable and be the sunlight that is the best disinfectant. God, it's so dumb, but it's very true. Sunlight does kill a lot of germs. It's really good stuff. But you raise a good point. Who's holding people accountable, right? And also these fees that they have to pay, $200. Again, getting back to dollars and cents and the fortunes that these people have. It's like, okay, I'll pay your $200 fee, but $200, $1,000, sure, yeah, because the information what I'm doing is exponentially more valuable, right? Yeah. So if no one's holding them accountable, no one's taking them to task, putting their feet to the fire, and they're still getting away with this. The Stock Act is just another insult on the American public's intelligence, saying we have these measures in place. They're there, but I don't know. We're not gonna use it. Maybe, who knows? Just depends on which way the wind blows this week. Or if, I don't know, or if the University of Miami Hurricanes had a great one last weekend's football game. We might enact it, but don't worry about it. But yes, Nancy Pelosi, I think we should, it's all BS, man. It goes back to the, as you mentioned, the corruption of our American government and the fact that multiple, I could see if it was isolated incidences, like maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but multiple tens of people, more dozens of people have violated this just in the last year alone that are probably very wealthy. It's ridiculous. So
universally,
I don't know.
Yeah. And look, I obviously want us to have this information. If you didn't have the Stock Act, much of this reporting from Dave Leventhal and his associates wouldn't even be possible. But that's just the information. Why would that stop them from using the insider information that they have? Like, having more information is good. In this case, what does it do for us? Why would that stop them from using something that they got in a private briefing to make decisions? I mean, in theory, let's say that we had instantaneous access to what they do. Like, they get a trade, they do a trade, I get a notification. Well, then maybe at least I can then do the same thing, like mirroring the information they have. but they're not even, if they abide by the law, they don't have to do it for months, and they don't even abide by the law. So I can't benefit from them having done it. There's no penalties when they do it. I mean, as people pointing on the chat, when Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue were obviously, 100% obviously using the information they had during the pandemic, we found out about it, and it didn't violate any laws, any ethical guidelines. It didn't matter at all. So how is it supposed to stop the corruption? And she's not even making that, like what she said in her comment that we led off the show with was, it's a free market, they should be able to participate in it. So under her argument, Loeffler and Perdue didn't do anything wrong. It's a free market. Her husband didn't do anything wrong, evidently, and they clearly did. So again, like we're not gonna be able to convince her on this because she has a massive economic interest to hold the position that she does. So we have to get her out of there, and as many others like her as possible, until we have a critical mass of representatives who hold positions that aren't about their own economic interest, but actually reflect the public interest.
Right, the public interest.
Any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, any final thoughts is that you just mentioned that we need to get her out of there. But here's another thing: is that when you have lots of money, it's hard to be removed, right? Some of the most powerful people in the world are very wealthy and have resources to make sure they stay just that, and they stay where they are at, or they ascend to greater heights because of their wealth and their position. So it's that this is a clear indication, John, and a very clear example of the haves and have-nots, right? And unfortunately, the majority of the American people are the have-nots.
Yep, 100%.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.